everybody. Thanks for coming to the Cabinet meeting on the Tuesday 23rd January 2018. Membership of the committee. We've got apologies from Councillor Sheard, Councillor McBride and Councillor Erin Hill. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. They okay? Yeah, thank you. Any interest members got to declare? Kathy?
Chair, I want to declare an interest on item 8. I'm a family member living in Kirklees property.
Yeah, I've got declared interest in the same item. My mum's a council tenant. Anybody else? Item 4, admission of the public. We've got members of the public here. Welcome. We've got the items that you are here for. We've already got them down. It's the Bradley item, correct? And Jean, you're here for the same item as well. Okay. And Martin, you're here for a couple of items. Right. Okay. We've got a deputation, but she's outside. I saw her. I'm assuming that she's waiting and she's come for the school transport. Now, what I was proposing to do is under item 12, we'll take her on board, and hopefully she'll have regrouped and she'll be able to then come in. So is that okay, members? Okay, thank you. I think she's outside waiting for somebody. Yeah, so she's here, but no. I just had a quick chat with her, and she's waiting for a few colleagues. Any deputations, members? No. Item 6, public question time. Now, I know you've got questions, but shall we take them on the items that we come to? Is that okay? Item 8, housing revenue account, rent and service charge setting report, and key housing challenges. Cathy, do you want to open this item? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. This report comes before Cabinet to seek approval of the 1% reduction in the dwelling rents for the years 18-19, and for the proposed garage rents, the annual uplift of 3.9% for the years 18-19, and the similar for the service and other charges, with the exception of extra care services that have been proposed for an annual uplift of 2.8%. Sorry, 2.87%. I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to remind Cabinet and the members and people that are here and the general public that this was a good opportunity to tell you that in July 2015 the government introduced a new rent setting measures under the Welfare Reform Act in 2016. This is for social landlords to reduce their rents payable by the tenants by 1% each year, and that started in April 2016 and it ends in April 2019. The implication on the HRA revenue account with this 1% reduction over a 4-year period is £10 million. It is going to have an impact on the services that we do carry out, but I refer members to paragraph 2.4. There's a box diagram there that shows you the year-on-year impact. That I'm asking Cabinet members to move the recommendations within the report here today.
Thank you, Cathy Scott. Vera, are you going to second that?
Seconded.
Thanks, Naheed. Okay, are we all in favour of that report? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Item 8, new affordable housing. Sorry, 9. My apologies, I've not got my glasses. I've left them at home. I can't see a thing. Item 9, new affordable housing, Galway and Huddersfield. Who's going to move that?
Thank you, Chair. The report comes before Cabinet to consider the proposals to build 8 new 2-bedroom properties for social rent. These properties are going to be hopefully built on council land, or they are, because it's council land that we're releasing in Galway. The site will deliver new social houses for rent that meets the needs of low-income and vulnerable households. I am supportive of the proposal, and it's to build the much-needed council homes that we do need. I often remind members all the time that currently at the moment, this week's waiting list, we've got 10,400 applications with only 202 properties available. I do have the breakdown available should anybody require it, but you know, it's not going to change. We need to start moving forward and supporting initiatives, particularly with our own land, also private developers. So I move the recommendation that Cabinet give approval to K&H to progress the delivery of the new affordable homes in Golka, that Cabinet approve the proposed procurement approach, namely the use of Efficiency North framework with the appointment of GS Kelsey, and that Cabinet delegates the authority to the Service Director, the Legal and Governance and Commissioning to finalise and enter into the appropriate contracts.
Before I bring Councillor Martin Ball, do you want? Yep.
I'd like to second that. I'd like to also point out, by appointing this contractor, we do recognise they're out of the area, but because it's on our council land, we always ensure and negotiate with the contractor to use, wherever possible, local labour force. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mather. Martin, question?
Thank you, Chair. It's a generic question about the use of council land and achieving other council policies. This comes out of a discussion that we had recently at the Economy and Neighbourhood Scrutiny panel, which Councillor Kendrick was at, where officers were identifying there is a massive shortfall in the provision of extended care or close care retirement community type homes throughout the district. And I wonder, when the council is releasing its own land for housing, if it looks at the wider uses and say, can that land be used for accommodation for elderly and vulnerable people in the extended and close care type of setting? Is there anything, because I think we've got 3 in Kirklees at the moment, and there is, as we were told, there is a massive need for more. So I wonder if there's a strategic view, and can that be looked at with all land allocations in the future?
Councillor Cathy Scott, do you want to?
Councillor Bolt, right, so I agree with everything that you say there. That is one of the passions of myself and Councillor Kendrick. Extra care, supported living, all sites should be considered. And this site that's here today has been considered. It was considered, it wasn't appropriate. But I will say that all applications we are pushing, and it is going to be part of the council's strategic priorities to ensure that extra care provision is there on sites and assessed.
Yes, and I'll bring Councillor Kendrick in.
Thanks, and thanks very much for that, Cathy. Can I ask then that we have a meeting at some point, because there's a proposal being developed by Council at the moment for a site in Murfield, which the proposal is purely for housing. To bring it forward, develop it with a planning application, and sell it to a developer. Again, as we heard at scrutiny, when we're looking at the examples of Heckenbright, they've quite rightly said that these things don't need to be in the town centre to be viable. So if we have the site on the Murfield-Ravensthorpe border, currently looking at for 60 houses, if it's strategic, if it's possible that site could be used for this kind of facility, I'd appreciate a meeting with yourself and officers to look at that, see if it can be better used.
I'll let
in response to that, Councillor Bolt, I'd be delighted to meet up with you to discuss it, to see if there's a way forward that we can support all the initiatives for people and most vulnerable people.
Viv, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. Since I was at scrutiny panel and until my recent change, I was informed that 11 further sites in Kirklees have been identified. There isn't one obviously at Ashbrow, but another 11 being identified. I'm still not satisfied that that's enough. And actually, I know you emailed me about the site in Murfield, and my apologies, I haven't got back to you. Life's been a bit frenetic, but I'd really be happy if it fits to muscle in on any meeting you have with Cathy, because it still is a huge concern of mine. I'd like to follow that through.
Thank you, and I'd just like to reinforce what my colleagues have said, that it is the right direction, but we've got to also work within the planning framework. As you know, Martin, planning is a quasi-judicial body, so we will try and yeah, but I just thought I'd put that caveat in, right, yeah, because the will is there, put it that way. Are we okay with that report, members? Okay, thank you. Item 10, proposed Bradley Urban Extension. Councillor Turner, do you want to move this item? And we've got a few members here. and then I'll give you an opportunity to have your say once. Okay.
Let them speak first, Chair.
Thank you, Graham Taylor. Who wants to speak first from the public or councillors? Okay, Dave, yes. Councillors to speak first. Sorry, Jean. Over to you, Jean.
Right, I did do this response and I did ask it to be added to your report, and of course it wasn't done, so I'm going to read it out so you can all read it at the same time. It's very important that you listen to everything that's on here. Any revisions to the master plan were supposed to be in conjunction with local ward members. However, this has not happened. The Cabinet report in September 2016 also stated that work continues to assess what type of spot provision would be most appropriate on the proposed Bradley Park site. It is proposed that this work is developed as a more formal proposal during the autumn and winter of 2016-17 and will include community consultation. We have not been involved at all. The importance of the 18-hole course. There is no 9-hole golf course in the country that is sustainable. And yet we have a mature 18-hole golf course which has won many awards and contributes circa £100,000 per year towards other sporting facilities via CAL. In other words, it subsidises maybe swimming. This is an important reason why it has to be retained. Alternative build. There is a possibility of building at least, probably more, than 700 new houses alongside the golf course without having to use the golf course land at all. And having just looked at the land, that's probably more than 700. The shortfall, and I've said 800 here, but it might be less than that, can be reconfigured in the local plan on other private land within Ashbrow Ward, not over Kirklees. 3G pitches. The Council's Playing Pitch Strategy 2015 does make reference to 2 new 3G pitches being needed in the Huddersfield area. Ashbrow Ward has already got a site which is well used at Deaton Sports Arena, which makes this the ideal place to be the football hub site as per the Playing Pitch Strategy. That's what it says in it. The strategy confirms that it has 3 good adult pitches and 2 good mini pitches, and there is spare capacity for both adult and mini. It is classed as a key centre in the strategy and is listed as a potential site for 3G pitches in the strategy. By the way, I've got this online off the Playing Pitch Strategy, so it's all research I've done. I knew about it anyway because I was Cabinet member for the Playing Pitch Strategy at that point. There is spare capacity at Warren side, which has 1 good adult pitch up to West Riding standard. That means it can be played for pro-amateur matches, and with a fence around it, 1 standard and 1 good junior pitch. This site is not used at all at the moment. There is a well-used pitch with fencing, again up to good standard, at Northfield Hall in Brackenhall. North Huddersfield Trust School has 1 adult pitch, standard and unused. Woodland Glade Leisure Centre, which is off Bradley Road, across from the golf club site, has a 3G 5-a-side pitch, which potentially could be used for training and competitive matches and is only used for recreational purposes at the moment. Bradley Park, Wilton Avenue, has 1 standard adult pitch unused at the moment, and there is potential to reconfigure to accommodate shortfall of youth pitches. This site has, of course, just been asset transferred to the community, and their plans include bringing the pitches back into use and the introduction of a new facility which would house changing rooms to go alongside the pitches. What a perfect place for 3G pitch. In my opinion, if 2 3G pitches could not be installed at any of the above sites, then there is a need in Linley Ward for a pitch to be replaced, which is always waterlogged and which is within the vicinity of houses recently built that need some additional sport and leisure capacity. In addition, my other reasons for not removing the 18-hole golf club are: the course was built on a waste tip. There are at least 5 fall seams which are being mined under the golf course. Most of the course is on Greenbelt land, which is a district boundary between Kirklees and Calderdale or Bradley and Rastrick. There are electric pylons across the whole of the golf course. Why are they above and not below ground? That is a question you need to ask. And the only ones in the whole of the area. To the edge of the golf course is the largest hazardous waste tip in Kirklees, and I've got that off the website as well. It is still active and has a licence for another 15 years. Waste tipped on this site includes asbestos and incinerator ash. It is estimated that the tip will be another 8 metres higher at the end of the licence, and it is already unsightly looking across from the golf course. There are also 2 capped waste tips next to it which were owned by ICI Syngenta, and who knows what they contain. We have heard there is paraquat there. At no time has the council been in contact with the company who runs these hazardous waste sites, and incidentally, none of the sites are inspected by the council. The licence is with the Environment Agency. This then leaves the highway infrastructure. There is no mention in the report of the financial implications and the fact that a link road, whether a flyover or the making up of a country road already in situ, has to cross a railway line, a canal and a river. The cost of this must far outweigh any benefit that may help in the reduction of traffic. In fact, the plan would be adding to the current traffic with 1,500 extra houses accessing this road. All this work does is relocate the traffic, not reduce it in any way. Plans would probably mean that Lower Quarry Road would be updated, and this is the very road that all the wagons access the hazardous waste site. And they tell me there are about 80 wagons a day go up and down that road. Nowhere in this report has the Environment Agency been consulted about the significance of housing next to a hazardous waste site, the air pollution already that exists by the heavy use of the motorway on one side and the A62 on the other side. These views are not only my own, I hear them from residents across the ward in Kirklees. Since this was written, there have been more developments which makes this project more unlikely to succeed than ever. The government had decided not to fund Junction 24A of the M62 motorway, and at this moment in time, no finances have been identified to provide for an extra junction. Without this junction, the new road at the bottom of Bradley Road would have to take all the new traffic. 2 new companies have been identified as moving on to Bradley Business Park. Both of these companies will be employing around 400 staff, which means in total an extra 800 employees will be travelling up or down Bradley Road on a daily basis. Neither of these developments have been taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jean Calvert. James, do you want to say anything?
So firstly, obviously, from as context, I appreciate this is a difficult issue, and members will know that when this was came to council, the local plan came to council, I spoke about this, and they'll know that I am concerned about the loss of the golf course, and obviously would like to see as much retained there as possible. But I also understand your point of view and the council's point of view and what they're trying to do in terms of the local plan, and put forward some explanation of how they're going to deliver that. And I understand it's with the inspector now, so we have to. There's lots of good arguments to be made, but we will see what the inspector thinks in terms of the cases that are made by all sides on this. I just wanted to focus really on a couple of issues about the report itself, some of which Councillor Calvert had just touched on. The first one is the consultation process that's gone on here. I don't need to reread out what Jean had said, but if you look back to your previous master plan report that came in September 2016, it did state at that point that further development of the master plan, and particularly the sporting provision, would be done in conjunction with ward members and with community consultation. From my perspective, I've had briefings and discussions on this paper, but I've not had any input into that. And I know there's been no consultation in the community. I think it would be helpful for Cabinet members to explain to the public the reason for that. I think perhaps the reason is because of the the position of the local plan and the need to provide additional information to the inspector that's perhaps taken you, outside of what you had planned to do. But I think that hasn't been clear in this. So I think it would be helpful to know that, because from what I can see here, the main change in this master plan as to what was in the previous version is about the sporting provision, which was the bit that there was talk about the community consultation on. I think it's also worth touching on the wider implications for Bradley here. So we know there's this master plan, but we've also talked about the road infrastructure, the use of the business park, changes to use of the business park and the potential for more usage there. We've got the air quality management area on Leeds Road. So there's quite a lot of things going on in the area, and for a lot of people who live there, there's a feeling that there's a lot of change happening around them that they don't know about and don't understand and haven't had that discussion with the council. There's quite a number of active groups in Bradley, including the Bradley Forum, local TRA, obviously the golf club themselves, the Friends of Bradley Park, who are who are doing the asset transfer of the site and looking to build provision for more sporting provision on there. So there's a lot of groups that we could discuss, and I think it's important that if it's about a Bradley urban extension, it's all of Bradley, not just this one particular site. As an example, in here, there's talk in some of the layouts of the master plan, for example, there's talks about provision for things like shops and other, it might be doctor surgery, dental surgery, whatever it is, units within the new development. But there's obviously a question when you consider that lots of other people in Bradley live in other areas of, further down Bradley Road and to the Bradley estate. Those areas also have a lack of those sort of services as well. So I think there's a question just to think about there as to have we looked at it across all of the area and, wider, not just the development that you're looking at there and what works there. And I think that's where the community consultation would come in. So I think it would be helpful to understand what you think your plan would be there. The second thing I just wanted to touch on, kind of leads on from that, is I've had mixed information really in terms of going forward from here. What can happen in terms of sporting provision on the site if the plan is accepted by the inspector and the site is in there. The reason for that is initially the information was that the sporting provision and use on the site would be developed with local people and with ward members about what we want and what we need there. And Jean's touched on a few things around, are there other sites where 3G pitches, for example, might be more appropriate, and does that mean that actually we could have other sporting facilities on this site instead? And I think I'm just unclear what this report is about. Is it about saying this is what we want to do and this is what we're going to do? Or is it about saying this is one option and actually now we want to look with the community at other alternatives? If, for example, we say, we don't really fancy 3G football pitches, we want tennis courts or a running track or whatever, obviously there's issues around financial stability and stuff. But is there an option there for that to change? And that's where I'm not clear, because if there is, I'm not fully sure I understand what this addition to the master plan is about, and that's where I'm not clear. So I think it would be helpful to have a bit of clarity on that. I mean, and I think again it's about looking at the strategy overall in terms of sport in Ashbrow, but wider in Huddersfield. Jean's mentioned some of the other sites for 3G pitches, but when we had our presentation to council from Cal last week, you'll notice they talked, for example, about the success of the Deaton Sports Arena. In many ways, that would seem like a good place to have 3G football pitches, because it's already talked about how it really has engaged people from more disadvantaged backgrounds to get into sport. And, will they use the facility at Bradley on a nice new estate? Possibly. But have we looked at all those eventualities? Because, when we're talking about the playing field strategy, of course, at that point the solution wasn't to build these on Bradley Park. So It would just be good to know that this has been thought through overall in terms of the whole strategy. Aside from that, so if there was any clarity on those couple of points, that would be helpful, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James Holmwood. Martin?
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to look at one or two sort of strategic points. The ward members have obviously covered the local issues. Firstly, just a grammatical point I'd like to raise on 2.2.2. It says that the site is allocated housing in the local plan. As the local plan has not yet been settled, that should actually say proposed for housing. It may not end up being allocated, so grammatically, that one I would suggest, Chair, needs amending to be truthful. The housing plan hasn't been, the local plan hasn't been adopted, and the inspector may get through.
Martin, I think it does say that if it is. Yeah, we made the point, Viv.
The issue about nine-hole golf, I'd like members to reflect on the sustainability of previous golf courses of 9 holes, short courses. I can remember when we used to have one at Spenborough, opposite to Princess Mary behind the Spenborough Baths, closed and grassed over. A very good course, quite challenging upper burst off the A62. Now derelict land, and I'm sure Councillor Ahmed will remember the one at Rectory Park at Thornhill, which the council passed to private owners who tried to run it, but it wasn't sustainable. So short pitch and putt courses, par threes, don't seem to have that longevity. You can't get the people. I am sceptical of the links to the highway structure 2.4.5 on page 26. We've just heard of the ambitious plans to form a link road between the A644 Brighouse Low Road and Combridge A62 area. That's only recently been announced, which, as far as I know, hasn't yet been subject to any technical appraisals, engineering appraisals, budget, and yet it's saying that it forms part of the Transport Fund and will be delivered by 2023. 5 years hence, and we haven't even got a spade in the ground yet. That route, in outline, has to go across 2 live railway lines, a canal, the River Calder, and as already been alluded to, the busy access road to the landfill site. We know how difficult it is delivering major highway schemes across open spaces, so with all those engineering challenges and the fact that they haven't done a geological survey yet, I'm sceptical about the opportunity for a 5-year delivery. Again, on it says highway structure and transport. It says it will provide high-quality infrastructure for walking and cycling. All we can see at the moment on the master plan, and the colour one was a lot better, was a perimeter walking route that was in red around the edge. I looked obviously with an interest to see what links would be made for cycling and other aspects to get people from here to link up with maybe Shepherdstone Lane at the east of the site so that people get to Brighouse without going around the main roads. Bradley Greenway, Calder Valley Greenway, the canal towpaths. There is no evidence of these high quality linked infrastructure. There's been no submission to West Yorkshire Combined Authority by Kirklees for any funding for any such infrastructure or planning. So, I am interested to know where that would go. And just a correction for Jean, I was interested when the announcement came out about Junction 24A, having been a cabinet member some years ago who asked to look at a partial junction there. But it wasn't the government who pulled it, it was Highways England who said that they're not interested. And I think the council should be pursuing that, because the opportunity for a partial junction there to take traffic off the M62 would alleviate traffic at other key junctions such as Cooper Bridge and facilitate greater access. And I think that is a very lamentable step. But just those points, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Martin Bull. What I'll do is I'll we'll respond to the councillors' comments, and then the members of the public that want to talk as well. So, are we okay if we do that? Graham, do you want to respond to the councillors' comments?
Yes, Chair. We'll look at the link. I'll go to Martin's link with the highways infrastructure. That is something that's coming through WICA, and I'm sure that will be progressed and developed with the relevant cabinet member. Unfortunately, he's not here today, so we'll get much more information about that than I am. Going back to Junction 24, there was mentioned about its implications for this report. Nowhere as in any of the reports done on the Bradley Park ever indicated that it was reliant on Junction 24A. It's never been taken into account because obviously Junction 24A is not something that's in our gift. It's the Highways Agency that deals with that. Again, I'm sure that once Peter comes back, he'll be going back to the Highways Agency and checking why the reputed changing of that plan has come about. But it is not relevant to this plan. It was never included in any of the original reports. Lots of mention around the siting of it with tips, etc. None of the proposals are anywhere near any of the facilities that's currently there or have been there, so they're outside that area of build. Yes, again, going back to the electric pylons, could well be a problem, but that's something that could be addressed as and when, if this plan goes ahead. That's the fourth part of the planning process and build out. Don't forget, this is probably a number of years away from coming to fruition, because it's still got to go through the local plan. We still don't know whether that will be approved in the local plan, whether the local plan itself will be approved, because that will be a council decision at some point. So a lot of these issues around highways, sustainability, these will be picked up. Should a planning application be submitted, they will be picked up, as will air quality, and they will be picked up as part of the planning process. So I think that addresses all those specific issues. I'll go on to the issue of the actual moving the motion, and then we can pick some comments up before we go to that point. So, Chair, this report is the update on the proposed Badley Urban Extension Plan. Cabinet is very well aware that this is a contentious site and has been very much in the public view since it was proposed for development. I and the Cabinet genuinely fully understand the opposition and concerns residents and representatives of the communities have to the inclusion of Bradley Park into the local plan submission. These concerns have been taken on board and a revised master plan has been developed, and this is the report we have before us today. In preparing this report, we received detailed comments from ward members and held briefings with them, which helped our understanding of the feelings of local residents, as well as a summary of the ward members' comments set out in the report. 5.1 is a reference. I can confirm that I have seen and considered, as has other Cabinet members, the full text of the submissions received from Councillors Calvert and Homewood. The Bradley site gives us a rare opportunity as landowners to strongly influence the nature of the development that takes place if the site is retained in the local plan, once the inspectors finish their public examination and publish their recommendations. And of course, the Council needs to agree any new local plan in the future. As I said, some of the comments already made will be picked up in the planning process if it goes through the local plan and that local plan is then agreed by Council, so they will be picked up as that. As a member of the Heavy Wool and Planning Committee and former member of the Strategic Planning Committee, I have on many occasions had to sit and listen to very wealthy landowners and developers telling the community and the committees why they can't build affordable homes. As landowners, this site allows us to do just that as part of creating a truly inclusive new community on the site. We all know the housing market is broken and this site won't fix it, but it can help to address the shortage of decent affordable homes within Kirklees. The provision of a revised sporting and leisure hub, including a 9-hole golf course and golf driving range, has been the subject of positive discussions with both Sport England and Golf England. To date, the Council is committed to continuing to work with the national bodies and the Committee of British Golf to develop and refine the proposals further. Much has been made of the fact that 9-hole golf course are not viable. 18-hole golf course use is declining, unfortunately, in this country, and 9-hole golf course are actually increasing their participation rates. But by creating a hub of sporting facilities, we feel that this will be viable. Our advisors have said that this could be viable as a plan. We do have a shortage of 3G pitches in Kirklees. The potential to improve the stock is an important part of proposed development. We lose too many days to sporting activity, to bad weather, and these 3G pitches will help reduce the lost playing time due to inclement weather we get in this area. 3G pitches can be used all week, every day. Grass pitches can only be used a fraction of that time. So the increased capacity will allow more people to be more active and more of the time. It's exactly what we are trying to encourage residents to do so they stay healthy and live longer, better lives. As I said, the inclusion of 3G pitches as part of the sport and leisure hub, along with the golf provision and new changing facilities and clubhouse, allows, from our advice, a financially viable provision to be created and will continue to develop. And we will continue to do the proposal in conjunction with CAL and the Council's leisure management partner. If somebody comes up with an alternative during these processes, whether it be golf, whether it be tennis, whether it be walking, etc., those can be taken into account in the report as referenced in 5.1. This will not be the final report. We will continue to work with residents and elected members to devise the best possible plan for them on that site. Sport England and England Golf both recognise the need for the mix of facilities that are provided to be financially sustainable, while still more offering access to high quality facilities to both the casual and more experienced participants in the relevant sports that may well appear on the site. Consultation will continue as the plan develops with all the interested sporting parties along with ward members whose input will be important in ensuring that the final plan works both for the local community and the wider Kirklees population. Chair, I ask Cabinet to access this revised master plan to the Bradley Park.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner. Before we move on, I've got a few members of the public. David, is it just David who wants to speak? Okay, Dave, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, members. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Story. I'm a Chartered Town Planner, and I've been advising Bradley Golf Club on the local plan process and planning issues. Sorry.
I think your mic's not working. Do you want to press? Well, you can do the next one. Yeah, just.
Is that better?
That's better, yeah. Great stuff. Over to you. Start again, please. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just saying, for those who don't know me, my name is David Story. I'm a Chartered Town Planner, and I've been representing Bradley Park Golf Club in advising on the planning process and the local plan. And I've made representations throughout the local plan process on behalf of the club. First of all, I would say that we welcome recognition by the Council that golf provision at Bradley Park is not surplus to requirements. I just want to make a few quotes, if I can, which are relevant. Bradley Park offers a good mixture of golf facilities at which the game of golf can be played, taught and practiced at all ability levels. Bradley Park has successfully tapped into the nomadic market. Bradley Park is one of the few remaining municipal-owned courses in either Kirklees or the neighbouring authority areas. Bradley Park Golf Club has a unique role as a municipal pay-and-play facility, providing both playing and learning facilities. At Bradley Park, the quality of the product is good and the demand for its playing, teaching and social facilities remains strong. Whilst I endorse those comments, they're not mine. They're actually from Council Commission report by Knight, Kavanagh and Page on golf needs assessment in 2015 as part of the local plan process. The aim of the golf club has been to protect the 18-hole golf course, the quality of which you just heard from those statements, from development. And this has been, to date, supported by both Sport England and England Golf. Whilst the inclusion of a 9-hole course is noted, in terms of planning context, our view is it doesn't meet the National Planning Policy Framework, paragraph 74 requirements. And I just want to read those out. Existing open space and recreational buildings and land, including playing fields, should not be built on unless, 1, an assessment has been made which has clearly shown the open space, buildings or land to be surplus to requirements. That's not the case here. Or the loss resulting from the proposed development will be replaced by equivalent or better provision in terms of quantity and quality in a sustainable location. Now, the definition of equivalent is if one amount or value is the equivalent of another, then it's the same. So I would suggest that a 9-hole course is not the same as an 18-hole golf course. So that test is not met. And the final one is the development is for alternative sports and recreation provision, the need for which clearly outweighs the loss. Now, the development here is housing, predominantly. So that's what you're looking at there. Bradley is unique in that it is a members club and a municipal golf course, providing pay and play facilities for nomadic golfers. On the limited information that we've been provided with and had access to prior to this Cabinet meeting, we've concerns about the long-term viability of a 9-hole course. And I just want to expand on what those concerns are in reality. Tee times would be restricted much more than on an 18-hole golf course, and there would be greater conflict between those members who want to use it and the paying public, especially when competitions are in place. So there will be less use, and the pay and play customer may well go elsewhere as a result, which would clearly threaten the viability. In terms of the plan that we've seen, and I accept an indicative plan, but the area for the 9-hole course seems rather small at around 22 acres. And it's much smaller than other nearby 9-hole courses. For example, Lightcliff is 30 acres, Crow's Nest is 45 acres, and Round A is 50 acres. So it's substantially less than those courses. We understand the Council's dilemma and the challenge that they have in terms of meeting housing needs to 2031, and we understand the issues raised by the local plan process. And notwithstanding our objection to the loss of the 18-hole course, and on a without prejudice basis, we would like to be involved with the bodies that you've referred to and that Councillor Turner referred to on the layout and design of this 9-hole course to make sure that it's fit for purpose in terms of usage, size, etc. That's obviously if it then flows through the plans endorsed by the local plan inspector. From our point of view, we continue to oppose the proposed designation on the following grounds: non-compliance with NPPF paragraph 74, traffic impacts, and I acknowledge Councillor Turner's point regarding Junction 24A not being reliant, this scheme not being reliant on that, but clearly it would have relieved the potential impacts. The other issue is that the link road that's proposed is a major constraint on majority of this development coming forward, because it's needed before you can actually release the larger scale part of the development. There are environmental impact and ecological issues, and there are obviously greenbelt issues as well, given how close this is to the boundary with Calderdale and Calderdale's plans to develop in Rastrick and Brighouse. The fact that you've amended this master plan shows that the process is fluid. There are two elements of the master plan that could stay in. There's already part of the site that's allocated for housing in the current unitary development plan. It was adopted in 1999. And that's the part that could be developed. You could put an application tomorrow, and we couldn't resist that. That affects the par 3 foot golf area and the driving range. But we would struggle to object to that because it's allocated for housing in your current plan. The other element that could come forward is the private land, which is the farmland. Those two combined, looking at the densities proposed and the desire to go for affordable housing, could yield quite substantial housing numbers that could be delivered. The residual amount of housing on this indicative layout seem to be the lower density, higher value houses, and they could be lost in terms of numbers and accommodated elsewhere, as Councillor Calvert said, in Ashbrow Ward or on other sites that have been promoted through the local plan process within Kirklees. So you would still be meeting housing delivery and not losing the 18-hole golf course. In conclusion, we would, as I say, we will maintain our objection to the local plan process, but would ask members to consider the points that have been made and look at a further revision here which would retain the 18-hole course in its current form and still provide housing on the two sites that I've mentioned. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. Graham, do you want to respond, and then we'll get a second, and then we'll...
Thanks for your comments, and in some ways I'm pleased you continue to object, because that's how democracy works, and we had the original complaints and observations on the original plan. That's why we modified it. That's why, if you look at 5.1, we will talk to people and modify it as it goes forward. Don't forget, all this is still subject to the planning inspector including this into thing, and that's where your reference to planning guidance comes in. It will be their decision at that point. So there's no point discussing that, because that in some ways is very much out of our hands. But as I said, it is referenced at 5.1. We will continue to talk to people. Golf England have been constant. We're in constant touch with Golf England. So should we end up with a $9 caucus, I am absolutely convinced that we would consult them on a layout as well as the members. Why wouldn't we? I'm not an expert on golf courses. You say it's a small site, it could well be. Again, I don't play golf, I don't know. So all those things will be addressed in the future. As I say, you're quite right, it is fluid, is this. Things will change. We may do surveys in the future if it comes forward. That mean things have to be moved around. As you well know, ground conditions can sometimes determine where you put things. So I'd say we will continue consulting with those interested, Golf England, Sport England, and we will hopefully create some affordable homes for the residents of Kirklees and a fantastic sporting facility for those that wish to partake of it. And I believe that if we put 3G pitches in golf and the clubhouse, etc., on there, and perhaps some other sports have been suggested, we could create a really positive sporting hub that would generate money for whoever operates it. We would probably have an independent company operating for it on our behalf, so it would generate income for them. And there could be some cross-pollination. You could, with a bit of creative thinking, I was talking about this earlier with officers, there's some ideas that you could have a game of football and have a game of golf, or have a game of golf and have a kick about football. So there's lots of things you could actually increase the usage of golf by people seeing, it's 9 holes, I can go around there while they're playing football. So the mixture of sports on one side, I think, is a real positive. There could well be cross-pollination, and it will increase the usage going forward. So yes, it is fluid. Yes, we will continue to look at engaging with all those that we need to engage, as sex sporting with golf, the golf members, etc. And we'll take it on board when the time comes. At the moment, of course, we have to wait for the inspector. The real work comes after our work's done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner. Moz, you want to second it? Okay, Councillor Khan seconded it. Can
I make a few points?
Yes, Councillor Mather, you want
to? I was originally going to second it, but I want to make some points. I concur with most of what Councillor Turner is saying, but would like to stress that we have lots to take in with the representations today. We were aware of the representations made so far. The points, as a resident of Ashbrow Ward, I have a personal interest to ensure that this fantastic opportunity delivers what the residents would like. And so what I would like to say is, first of all, what Councillor Bolt said, infrastructure takes time to bring forward. There is a lot of change that is going to happen, that's being talked about. Services usually follow the infrastructure and the development of this scheme. We will, as Councillor Turner has said, we will carry on listening, and we will hopefully try and involve all the concerned parties. And as the plan develops over time, because you've got to recognise this is a progress report, those discussions will be ongoing, and I would like to reassure that whatever transpires is in the best interest of all. This gives us the opportunity to talk about bringing in jobs, regeneration and greater footfall, and not only to Ashbrow Ward, but to Huddersfield and Kirklees district as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mather. Are we all okay to move that report? Members, the local plan process will continue, and obviously I'd encourage you to actually keep on input into that process. Okay, thank you, members. Yeah. Item 11. Proposal to change to support and transport for disabled children, adults and older people. Councillor Cassie Scott. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The report comes before Cabinet on the results of consultation with service users and the wider public on the potential of the changes to the number of services affecting children and adults with disabilities and their carers. We're stepping back, and we're not going to be so paternalistic. We want to maximise the independence of people. So on the access fund in the report, this report supports additional costs for early years and children with disabilities and special educational needs. We have listened to the feedback of the consultation and the importance to support for the support is recognised. Originally, there was a requirement in the MTF to save $523,000 from this part of the budget. Option 5 is recommended, and that this is a saving to be made elsewhere in the adults budget. Officers and cabinet members are recommended that they do not go to the statutory only, but we invest in a team to build capacity with early years providers to meet the needs of this group and very important children. So this next part of the report, it goes on to home to school transport. Instead of disabled children being on a bus or a taxi to school, a travel team will be invested in. They will work with the family to look at the best ways to support the child to school. Children with profound needs may need to continue using the taxi service or a special bus service, or maybe a combination of this, but it's about independent travel we are looking to support. The proposal seeks confirmation from the Cabinet that there should be a separate SEN and disability-specific home-to-school transport policy, that post-16 home-to-school transport should be reviewed, and that a separate travel assessment unit should be created. So on the adult social transport, as part of the asset and to a strength-based approach, we are starting the conversation about what people's assets are and when we need to meet their unmet needs. This means that there would not be an automatic assumption that we would provide transport to day services, for example. If the people have a mobility allowance or a mobility car, we would consider this before the council funded the transport that they would be offered. Obviously, if carers are struggling to provide transport, we could provide transport as part of the carers assessment. This would be a holistic assessment to consider the whole of the person and their family life. We will work with people over a period of time in making the changes. Can I refer members to 2.3 of the report and the second paragraph? This is about ensuring that as many people live and travel independently and safely as possible within their own communities. The recommendation to Cabinet is options 3 and 4 on page 39 to consider the full cost recovery. And the next item on this part is the short breaks. This relates to a range of provision that's set out on page 40. The proposal to Cabinet is to continue the overnight short breaks, to develop more after-school services and to seek opportunities to develop provision for the breaks in the community. So I move the recommendation in this report.
Thank you, Councillor Cassis. Viv, do you want to second it?
I do second it, but I would like to make a comment or two, particularly around the short breaks for disabled children. I find it amazing that children who go to mainstream schools have the opportunity to go to a breakfast club, an after-school club, but at our special schools there isn't that facility, and therefore we transport children 4 miles to a centre across Kirklees, and it's time we worked to make sure that that provision is at our special schools, because these children also have that right, and I think what we do currently is poor. And I think the adjustments to the proposals arising from the consultation are very sound, and I would very much support it and second this report.
Thank you, Councillor Viv. Are we okay? It's the next item. It's the next item.
I just wanted to echo what Councillor Viv just mentioned in light of the schools and the after-school clubs as well, because obviously there are a lot of families that do go out the area and would love to have those facilities at those special schools, i.e. Fairfield, Ravensall and Castle Hill, because I've worked with a lot of those families and I think they'll welcome this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillors. Are we all okay to move that? Thank you very much. Item 12, we've got a deputation. Suzanne, we deferred this item, right, yeah, because we knew that you had a deputation. So if you want to say what you need to say.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm Suzanne Gannon from Meltham, and I'm making a deputation on agenda item 12, the proposals for changes to home-to-school transport for children attending mainstream schools. I regret, as I believe most of the cabinet members do too, that due to the unfair cuts in their overall funding imposed by this current Conservative government, the Kirklees Council is being forced to reduce many vital services to our communities, and now also this funding for school travel. This service enables young people across the borough to get to and from school, and in the semi-rural valleys of Kirklees, this is even more vital, as the distances and travel routes have many natural barriers. I come here today to express the concerns of families in Meltham and would urge the Cabinet to adopt Proposal 1, looking to savings elsewhere. If that's not possible, however, then I strongly urge you to give careful consideration to the details of Proposal 3. In particular, I'm concerned about the impact that bullet point 3 on page 68 of the report will have on the 350 to 400 students from Meltham who are currently attending the catchment school of Hunley High and another 100 attending Holmfirth High. I strongly urge the Cabinet to reject this part of the proposal so that any current students who qualify for the free bus passes do not have their educational experience disrupted by having to transfer from these schools to Cone Valley High School from September 2019. Educational and family experts indicate that siblings attending different schools adversely affects educational achievement and family cohesion. In this light, it should be noted that many of the current students at Hunley High School will have siblings still in primary school in Meltham. It will cause families hardship, both logistically and financially, if they have to stretch themselves in order to serve children at two different schools at polar ends of the constituency, especially if Cone Valley High School is not a convenient route to their workplace or to out-of-school arrangements for other siblings. I strongly urge the Cabinet to consider allowing siblings of students who are studying at Hunley High School at the time of implementation to nominate Hunley High School as their nearest suitable school, rather than Cone Valley High School. Bullet point 4 on the same page asks that, should it prove feasible and deliver savings that outweigh delivery costs, that the Council will look to move from a system of upfront bus passes to a retrospective reimbursement of these travel payments. However, the officers have noted in point 3.2 on page 66 that some parents who are just above the low-income assistance threshold may find this financially difficult, especially if they have more than one child at school. Can I ask the Cabinet, therefore, to request that the officers consider a way to mitigate this financial burden for those families should this change be implemented? Also, point 3.2 on page 66 makes note of the need for the West Yorkshire Combined Authority to monitor the impact on public transport provision as a result of these changes. Currently, the bus serving Home Valley High School from Meltham, the 389, does not arrive in time for students to take part in the breakfast club or in Key Stage 4 intervention classes. The 388 bus only begins its daily service from 9 a.m., which is too late for students. The 389 also leaves Cone Valley High School too early to allow students to take part in after-school activities. Could I get some reassurances from the Cabinet that the transport options from Meltham to Cone Valley High School are monitored to see if they need to be increased or changed in order to facilitate the students who will be attending that school from September 2019? Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for that deputation. Masood, do you want to respond to the deputation and then we'll go into your report?
Thank you, Suzanne Gannon. Having met yourself and other parents as well and users, and then just listened to in terms of your deputation, I've took into account everything that's been said by parents, users, in relation and some of the references that you've made. In terms of your bullet point 3, if you look at page 64, 65 of that report, that makes reference to that. And in terms of the proposal, will be applied as a minimum to all new applicants for the train, bus, pass, boarding card, and for applications relating to school transitional points, i.e. infant to junior, first and middle schools. In terms of preference, parents can still preference only depending on places available at that school as well. And again, in terms of your bullet point 4, obviously you mentioned officers will be asked to investigate those proposals as well, and yes, we will be monitoring the situation as well in relation to the structure of minor health information. Thank you.
Thank you, Masood. Do you want to move the report?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. The purpose of the report is to update Cabinet on the results of the consultation with service users and the wider public on potential changes to a number of services affecting children attending mainstream schools, and following the consultation to seek approval for proposals for changes to home to school transport for eligible children attending mainstream schools. The consultation was carried out between 4th of September to October 2017. The consultation was widely promoted to groups and people and users, which can be seen with a list on page 59 in the report. In total, 543 responses were received for the home to school transport questionnaire. It is clear from the consultation that the provision of boarding cards, bus, train passes is highly valued by those in receipt of this service, and there has been a significant response from these areas. Given the financial pressures being faced by the Council, it is recommended that Proposal 3 be adopted, as this would take us back to statutory only provision and have the greatest financial impact for the authority. This proposal will be adopted for all existing applicants for train, bus, boarding card holders and all new applicants from September 2019, and will be rolled through subsequent years over a period of 4 years, and this will provide the greatest financial impact. It is recommended that Cabinet moves forward with this report on that proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Viv, do you want to?
Can I just clarify this? I mean, I absolutely accept that we should be doing retrospective payment for bus passes. I mean, I am aware that a lot of people get the bus pass now and never use it, but each bus pass costs us £300, which is a nonsense. I just want to clarify with Councillor Ahmed in terms of what you're recommending, because I'm concerned about the children who are currently in school. You know, perhaps parents chose that school because travel was possible and affordable, and I'm wanting to clarify, are you saying your recommendation is that children currently in Home Valley High School, in Honley and so on, would still get a bus pass?
No, if they're eligible.
If they're eligible as such. Yeah. Okay.
So what we're saying is that if they get in assistance now, that assistance will continue.
That's right. It's not going to be rolled until 2019 as well, so we're looking at it then.
Any more? No, thank you very much, Suzanne, and thank you very much for your deputation. It was very enlightening, and thank you very much for helping us develop and shape this policy, because I know you've been talking to Councillor Masood Ahmed and Councillor Viv Kendrick up to this report, and you know, we've got big challenges, but the outcome's been achieved where I hope it's a win-win situation for all. But having said that, there are challenges ahead, so thank you very much again. Okay, take a vote. Are we all agreed? I've got both members there. John, do you want to go first?
Okay. Thank you. Number of points, really. Firstly, can I just clarify the question that Viv asked? Because not of you, Viv, of Councillor Ahmed. Because the report actually says recommendation that this proposal should apply to all existing board, card, bus, train pass holders from September 2019. So that would mean, when Viv asked about if children who are in school currently would continue to get a bus, they won't continue to get a bus pass, Viv. They will lose it from September 19. So I'm confused now because I've read what it says, but what Councillor Ahmed said was something different, so I'm not quite sure what actually you are proposing. So if you just clarify that point first, please.
Masood, do you want to just clarify exactly what you meant?
The proposal won't start till 2019. At the moment, it will still continue.
No, can I? What the kids are in the system at the moment, they will continue getting what they're getting, unless in the interim they move somewhere else. Yeah, any new kids that come in will actually come under this policy.
That's not what the recommendation says.
Well,
if you look on page 68, the third bullet point down says that this proposal will also apply to all existing boarding card, bus pass, train pass holders from September 19. So if you currently have a pass from September 19, you will be impacted by this. So that is not what Councillor Ahmed is saying, but that's what the report says. So I am confused as to what this Cabinet is proposing in that respect.
Viv, do you want to come in?
I think there's a little bit of confusion in this. Proposal 3, which I think is what Masood is after, has an additional proposal. It talks about this could be phased in for all new applicants. And I don't think in the final bit of the report, the way it's worded, actually mirrors what's said in the body of the report, which is what I was reading. So one is that it would apply to new applicants, but when you look at how it's worded in the recommendation, that's not saying. You're absolutely right, John.
If you look at page 65, the office recommendation on 5, halfway down is a paragraph that says, in addition, it is the officer recommendation that the proposals apply to all existing train, bus, pass, boarding, car holders and new applicants from September 19. So actually, it does say the body of the report, as well as the recommendation, but it impacts on everybody.
Right, okay. Andrea, do you want to just repeat what you just said to me, and we will then minute that?
So if we say then, members, that we amend the officer recommendation on page 68 so that the third bullet down is replaced by the wording that Councillor Kendrick has referred to on page 65. So that the officer recommendation is that the proposal is applied to all existing train, bus pass, boarding card holders and all new applicants from September 19. Yes. To replace the existing recommendation on page 68.
I would like to move that as an amendment.
Yeah, and that
Sorry, that's wrong. Sorry, Andrea. What you just read out.
It should say all new boarding car, bus and train pass holders.
It says existing.
John, can I? Masood, right? Yeah. What we're saying is that anybody who is actually in the system at the moment at a particular school, they will continue getting whatever they're getting. No, but that's what we agreed to, right? Yeah. If Naheed, please, Masood, please, right? Yeah. That's what we've discussed this in quite detail, right? Yeah. So we can make that recommendation very, very clear. If anybody new that comes in the system, then they will fall under this new proposal 3. Is that clear? Now, I accept what you say in the report, right? Yeah, there's a lot of detail there, and the message has got lost. But that is what we have agreed when we sat down in the LMT, that anybody who is actually in the system at the moment, they will continue. However, if they move to another school, then they'll have to come under the new policy. Is that okay, John?
For the purpose of rightness, do we need to propose and second an amendment? Yeah. Well, I would like to propose, therefore, Chair, that the third bullet point says that this proposal should apply to all new boarding card, bus and train pass holders from September 2019. I don't know if anybody wants to second that.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I?
Right, Martin, did you...
No, sorry, that was just a clarification.
Go on. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's got a bit complicated. So I do have some questions as well. I do apologise. I'm concerned about this, as you would probably expect, representing a rural ward. And there are two particular issues that I'm concerned about. The first one relates to the fact that we do have in the rural part, in my part of Kirklees, still a three-tier system. And I note that the report itself admits it would create operational complications. And it doesn't clarify how it's going to resolve those operational complications, which leaves me worried. And it does make reference to some of the villages within my actual ward. But the examples I want to give you, and we've already stumbled over this September, and thankfully Councillor Hill helped me in getting them rectified. So I can talk to you about an example of a parent who lives in the village of Shepley. Now, Shepley First School doesn't have sufficient places for the children in the village of Shepley. And consistently, a number of the children have gone to Bird's Edge School, First School. Nobody's got a problem with that. It works quite happily and has done for a period of time. The problem comes when they leave the first school and go to their middle school, because the middle school which the children from Bird's Edge School go to is Sisset Middle School. The middle school which Shepley First School go to is Kirkburton Middle School. So what you have is a situation as a child has gone through first school with their classmates and would naturally go then to Sisset Middle School, and that is what has been happening. They are both more than the statutory distance from the houses in Shepley.
John, have you got a question?
Yeah, I'm coming to it. I'm trying to explain the circumstances. I think that is important.
I appreciate that, but...
So both of the schools are of more than the statutory distance from the property. Under this proposal, that child from Bird's Edge School would be told they have to go to Kirkburton because it is slightly nearer. And therefore they would be taken away from all of their schoolmates and sent to a different school if there's a place there. Similarly, when you get to secondary school, if you take Grangemore as an example, there is no secondary school within statutory distance of Grangemore. But King James's is slightly nearer than Shelley. So if they opt to go to Shelley, they won't be given support for a school pass because they could go to King James's, even if their siblings are already going to Shelley. So I have concerns about how you're implementing this and the impact this is having, because effectively what it will do is it will mean in the rural areas, unless you can financially afford to send your child to a school that's a bit further away, you are restricting choice, something that won't happen to children in the more urban areas. And I'd like Councillor Ahmed to comment on that, because I made these points to him in the representation back in the autumn.
I mean, in terms of what you just said, Councillor Taylor, if you look at page 64, you're right. The impact of this proposal will need careful modelling in relation to the three-tier system, and clear guidance would need to be provided for parents when choosing the three-tier system. You're right, and also you're aware of that. There was the Security Sufficient High Quality Learning Child Basis document as well, and we are working with that document as well as the schools to address that issue in relation to what you said. At the end of the day, it is a parent choice in terms of the school, and if there isn't a place at that school, then it will be the next school available, but we will try to work with those families and those parents as well in addressing that. And in terms of your point that you did raise, I did go back to offices and also to look at those issues that you raised, and it just wasn't yourself. In terms of this, Councillor Armour, Bill Armour raised similar concerns to yourselves as well, and also Councillor Jim Dodds in relation to his ward as well. And what I did say to Bill, what Councillor Armour and Councillor Dodd was, I will go and look at those schools and for myself find out exactly what is going on, and then come back and look at this particular model and work with officers to try to address those needs, and with yourself as well. I'll be more than happy to comment.
Thank you, Councillor Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Could I ask Cabinet to look at the recommendations on page 68? It's been alluded to already that recommendation 4 is to investigate moving towards retrospective reimbursement. The emphasis of the bullet point there about feasible delivery, etc., would seem to be leaning towards the feasibility and deliverability on the council. And I would ask colleagues to reflect on the impact on parents and families in a retrospective funding arrangement. If somebody has children going to a school and they're having to apply at the end of a quarter or whatever for fares include, how will they do that? The administration and the financial implication, I think, needs to be looked at because for some families it could be quite financially constraining. The next bullet point 5, is one which is of interest to me to see, and I welcome the investigation of this as colleagues would expect. The devil is in the detail in this, in particular because it's a cycle safety training. That needs to be appropriate to the highway and environment which it's been done. Under National Standards Training, or bikeability as it's now called, there are 3 levels of training. The one predominantly delivered in Kirklees schools is up to level 2, which is aimed at primary school children cycling on quiet streets. As you move towards secondary school, you need to be funding and gearing up to deliver level 3, which is for busier streets, traffic queues, complex junctions. And I believe that should be a stipulation in the report. Delegating officers could see that the devil in the detail is to continue delivering up to level 2, which would mean that they're not equipped for that safe cycle training. I had a look trying to understand the financial implications. But yeah, it's a great idea in principle, and one which, if successful, could be a pilot scheme and held up in esteem by others. We're suggesting here that where people want them, we would provide a bicycle, a helmet and cycle safety training. There's also the element of providing a lock and lights and things like that. But, so, what's the cost and what's the savings? Looking at page 64, there's a couple of paragraphs very well there. That the second paragraph says it, if applied immediately, possibly we're going to impact on 371 pupils. And then paragraph 4 says this could provide a saving of around about 114k. So that comes up to roughly £307 per pupil. The finances of that, if the scheme's successful and those 371 pupils convert to cycling with cycle training, you could find yourself having to pay out more to get them cycling than you're paying them on a bus, because cycle training is probably about £75 per pupil at the moment, and so leaving you there with £230 to get a bike, helmet and various other bits and pieces is not leaving you with very much margin. And you've also then got to look at additional training of servicing and maintaining the bike. It's a great idea, the devil's in the detail, and I'd like to see it worked up more. And as I say, concerns that it can be, if successful, it can be delivered with a saving to the council.
Masood, do you want to... let Masood the portfolio, let Masood answer.
Thank you, Councillor Bond. You're right. You're right, and I will look into those detailed costs, and obviously even I've learned something about cycling as well in terms of the level of level 2 and level 3 in terms of for secondary school. So that's I would, yeah, definitely.
Councillor Kendrick.
It's ages ago since you made this comment, and I'm struggling to remember it. It was about the upfront payment for some families may be a financial strain, and I recognise and understand that. I would hope the system, and I don't know, could be responsive where that was a problem. Let's not forget, my understanding of this is, and it's early understanding, is if that you are entitled to a bus pass because of the distance and because your family finances benefits you're on, you will get it anyway. There isn't any upfront, so people at the lowest level of income should be protected. I would hope that the service could be responsive if somebody has particular problems above that. As far as what the heck was the other one? The bike thing, you're right, the £300 is roughly what a bus pass costs, and it would cost an amount of money for training, a bike and all the rest of it, but it's a one-off payment. The bus pass is year on year on year of every year of a child's school life, and that's where the saving will come.
Thanks. I'm just sat here listening to the debate. We actually do have a culture of children up to the age of 16 being ferried to school, and the council has been working with schools very intensively to try and encourage more children to actually walk to school, and for parents to walk their children to school, or for parents or children to take public transport. This is a huge struggle. So we do live in a culture of where children are being ferried the majority of the time to school. And I agree with Councillor Kendrick that we need to address this issue of unused travel passes. They're use and ornament to anybody. So therefore I support this paper. The other issue is that middle school children, they tend to be aged between 7 and 11. We're very unlikely parents nowadays would allow them to travel independently, and they're probably being taken anywhere.
All right, thank you, thank you, members, and thank you, Martin and John, for your contributions. You made valid points, but the direction of travel is to actually make sure that we actually meet our financial challenges, but at the same time support children who want to use other modes of transport, i.e. cycling. We promote them, and Viv's right, it is a one-off cost, and if young people, young children do actually use cycle or walk, I'm sure it's good for them in terms of their overall well-being as well. Thank you. So are we okay with that report? Item 13, update on the prior school building programme at Mount Pleasant Primary School. Councillor Graham Turner.
Yeah, Chair, this is the updated report into the Mount Pleasant School, which, as we well know from memory, was one of the worst schools in the country. The state of the school was subject to the Educational Skills Funding Agency committed to replacing the school, with the investment being in the region of £10 to £10 million. Cabinet will remember this was a very, very difficult project to get off the ground, and members recall that a lot of time and effort was spent in reaching a solution that was within the budget and was deliverable on that very constrained site. Cabinet will note that officers, following discussion with portfolio holders, have also issued the notice of demolition, the demolition notice of the clock tower, which we well know has caused concern for some residents. Its demolition will create a little bit more green space for the school. Cabinet has made it clear in recent years that any new school should have sufficient play space. This is sometimes at odds with the funding agencies. Where this has happened on other sites, we have added additional resources to ensure that our children have the best play space possible. As many of the new built schools are in areas that don't have a lot of green space that children can access when not in school. So it's vital that we ensure that our children have the best possible facilities for play whilst at school. As members will see, there are several recommendations within the body of the report to improve the play facilities on the site. Chair, I ask Cabinet to approve an additional 125k basic needs grant to add to the 425 that was agreed by Cabinet back in 2016 to meet the new cost for the proposed play facilities and revise section 151 letter if required, and I say if required, be passed to the EFSA. Chair, I move this report.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Turner. Mr. Do you want to second it?
Yeah, I wanted to second this as well, and having visited the school as well last year, in light of what Councillor Turner has said, and the school has made a lot of inroads, and in terms of the, excuse me, the facilities that they are obviously required, and page 73 of the report really highlights that as well. Additional hard play, a square enough of a proposed grassed area adjacent to the hard play area will create around 385 metres of additional meaningful and usable play space. So definitely recommend this report.
Thank you. Our members all agree to that report? Yeah. Thank you very much. Item 14, Councillor Naheed Mother.
Right, this is a planning application fees. For those of you who don't know, planning fees are set nationally and have not increased since 2011-12. The white paper fixing our broken housing market issued February 2017 indicated an option for all local planning authorities to increase planning application fees by 20%. It should be noted that nationally all local authorities in England have applied to increase planning application fees as part of this proposal, as Kirklees is asking to do. As such, the increase in planning application fees is seen as an important step to recognise and address significant nationwide problems of under-resourced local planning authorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder? Viv?
I want to ask a question, please. And
yes,
I am sorry, I have read this, but I've only just noticed. I'm confused by the implications for the council, which said this process can commence on the 20th of December and the new fees will be in place by the 17th of January 2017. Are we doing something in retrospect? But we're already past the 17th of January anyway.
It's 2018.
Yeah, you're not on.
So, Paul, do you want to come in?
The actual announcement took this long.
Yeah, let Paul go on, Paul.
I've done it.
That one? Oh, yeah. When the report was written, the statutory instrument that implements all this legislation was making its way through Parliament. I think the report made an estimate of when it would be done. I think it actually slipped a bit from the 17th of January. But it's still good practice, I think, for the authority to note that we do intend to apply the increase in fees that every other planning authority in England is intending to do. So, yeah.
From what day?
Thank you.
From the date that the statutory instrument becomes live, Councillor Kendrick, which I think we might still be waiting for. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul, and you just repeated what you said, Naheed. Yeah. Have I got...
I think in Councillor Kendrick's point, if you look at page 79, it's referring to the 17th of January 2017. That needs to have an amendment 2018. Yes?
Paul?
Quite correct.
Yeah, that's what I said, 2018.
I thought we said 18. But
yeah, I did say 18. So we did say 18 at the beginning. I said that it looks like it's a typo. Yeah. So what I'm saying, Councillor Scott, is that 2017, for the record, needs to be changed to 2018.
Chair,
yes,
now I want to come back just for clarity about this, pedantic as ever. It should be 2018, but the 17th of January can't be a correct date either, can it? Can it? We're doing things in retrospect. You're nodding your head at me, Andrea. Were you agreeing with me or saying it can be done?
Just 1 minute, Viv. Paul, do you want to just clarify again exactly the dates?
My understanding, Councillor Pandor, is we're still waiting for the statutory instrument to be... That recommendation should be out as soon as possible after the national legislation to enable this is in place. And I think that would bring an end to the 5-minute debate we've had about the various dates, if Andrea could make that amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Right, shall we take a vote to move that report with the conversations we've had? Thank you very much, members. Good evening.